Hello everyone, my name is MansaMusa and welcome back to my channel. Today we're back with another replay analysis video in Advanced Wars by Web. And today we're back with one of my favorite matchups of all time, a Max versus Grit game. This is a matchup you really don't see too often in the Global League. In Standard, Grit is banned on pretty much every single map because he's just too powerful with his extra range on his indirect units. And in some of the other game modes like Fog, Grit actually tends to be not that good on most maps. You will see the occasional Max versus Grit game there, but generally people are picking Grit or kind of lower level. He's not normally the best pick on most maps. But in high funds, Grit is actually surprisingly viable on most maps, especially in some of the more heavily terrain maps, like the map that we see here. I believe the name of it is Off the Beaten Path, if I remember. If I'm getting that wrong, I will put of course, the map link down in the description so you can go to it if you want. But although there's a lot of roads in this map, you might think it maybe not be the best map for Grit. The amount of mountains kind of here near both the bases and in the center here actually provide Grit a lot of space and a lot of playground to get great use out of his indirect units. And you'll notice I am pointing out the mountains by the base, which you may not think are that important. But this map also tends to be very base racy because you have the base here and the airport, and then this airport down here, which actually more often than not goes to the player on the left here. This base is under constant threat on most iterations that this map is played, so these mountains actually become incredibly viable both for defense and attack, allowing Grit to be more viable than normal. That being said, we are going to have a very high-level match on our hands here. We have both Izanagi 007 and A-Chest in this match. Izanagi 007 might be the most well-known Grit main on the entire site, especially at a high level. I think Grit is his most played CO, whether it's a good pick or not on the map. He just loves playing Grit. And really, I've seen a lot of his replays. He utilizes Grit in such really an astounding way. He doesn't necessarily always go for just the huge wall of artilleries and do like kind of the standard Grit play where you just try to out critical mass of artilleries and beat you that way. He does mix in other units very well, and I think particularly his use of battlecopters is very strong and something that should be looked at by other Grit players because it's really the best way to get some more firepower without having to build tanks, which of course Grit doesn't want to build. And on the other side we have A-Chest, and A-Chest is a very, very strong player. I'll pull up both of these guys' profiles here, so take down Izanagi, pull up A-Chest, and we can see that he is, I think a 1400 player last time I checked. He may be even higher now. But yeah, a very, very strong player in his own right. It means we're going to have a very exciting matchup on our hands here. Not just because we have two very high-level players in this game, but also the matchup in general. Max, who has very strong direct units, and lower and less powerful indirect units, versus Grit, who of course is the exact opposite. This is going to be a very entertaining match. I've gone through this one before, and it is incredibly wild, so I'm super excited to get to share with you guys. With all that being said, let's hop right into this game. Izanagi 007 versus A-Chest on Off the Beaten Path. We start with the standard infantry turns on this map. Obviously, player 1 is going to be forced to take this red city over here on the left, and we'll probably see a similar pathing here by A-Chest on his turn. It's very interesting on this map how fast you want to open up this pipe scene. Obviously, it's easier for Grit because he's just going to build one of his many artillery and open it up to get access to this airport. It's a bit of a harder decision for the Max player because they don't necessarily always want to build the artillery. They may have to wait to build something like a medium tank or a neo tank to get some better use out of it to open up this pipe scene and then get the airport. Obviously, the airports are going to be better for Max than Grit because battlecopters are direct units, so it feeds more into Max than Grit. But like I said, Izanagi makes great use out of his battlecopters, and we will see it in this game. So we'll keep on going with these first few turns here. We see the first vehicle down here in the tank. Generally kind of a good strategy in high funds is to build one, maybe two tanks, and then go for an immediate tech up, like a Neo tank, just because generally tanks in the later part of the game become pretty useless against all the powerful units on the field, so you don't want to necessarily spam a lot of them, get 6, 7, 8 out of them like you would in, let's say, standard match. Or standard match. So yeah, we're going to see something similar here coming out of A-Chest, where I think he gets 1 or 2 tanks and then builds a Neo tank. We see the first artillery of the game built by Izanagi over here on the top left. And we keep on going on. We see the artillery get positioned here. This is a good spot, getting it both forward positioning and in range of the pipe seam to start attacking that down. A-Chest decides to put tanks on both sides. This is a good move against Grit, especially when he separates his artillery. You want to apply pressure everywhere. Don't let him get a critical mass anywhere that can deny you properties on either side of the map. So I do agree with this. We see the first attacks by this artillery on the pipe seam, and now we have a good 1-2 punch here where the artillery can get one more attack on it. It's not going to knock it down fully, but the tank can come in, finish it off, and allow the infantry to start capturing the airport. This artillery is now defending these two infantry from this tank, which is applying pressure, and we see a rocket build here. Generally, rockets as grit, you might think that they're very good, but generally I don't really like them. Rockets in general are just very slow. Yes, there's a lot of roads on this map that allow the rocket to have pretty easy access down to this area that it wants to threaten, but generally you just kind of want to build more artillery as grit. This one in particular, though, I think is actually a good build. One, because it's out of range of this tank to start, so it's not in any immediate danger, and two, because it's blocking everything in this area, so if HS did want to go in and attacking these units, just kind of disregarding the strength of the artillery, it's going to get double punished by the tank and the rockets. So we go to HS turn here on day 5, and we see, like I was talking about, the tech up immediately of the Neo tank. I think this is partially to address the rockets as well, but also just because I think it's the smartest play here, not to build too many tanks in the early game. We see the tank go to the city to put it in range of the rockets, so it's going to be very interesting to see where Izanagi tries to hide this. And we keep on going. On the top left here, we see the strategy that I was talking about earlier. The attack of the artillery against the pipe seam finishes off with the tank, and then capturing with the infantry on the airport in the north. Very important as well as a grit player. You don't only want to build indirects. Obviously, grit is an indirect master, but you still do need some direct combat units. One tank here and there, maybe a Neo or Mega tank later on in the match, and then obviously some battlecopters as well. We see Izanagi go ahead and purchase a black boat here from the sport. This is a very vital unit. You either need to build a black boat here to get this airport down here, or bring in a T-copter from the northern airport to capture this one as well. By building the black boat first, Izanagi is showing that he wants to get this airport early and apply very strong pressure against the space pretty much as soon as possible. So he's already angling towards this kind of base race idea, which is a little crazy because we're only on day 6 and I'm already talking about a base race. But yeah, by building this black boat this early and not kind of waiting for a transport, Izanagi is putting signs that he wants to capture this airport immediately and then apply pressure towards this base. But we keep on going. We see the rockets back up actually start. Now they're getting some better usage out here, defending every single indirect and troop in this area. And this artillery should be defending this infantry here, so there's no free hits for this tank. It's kind of in jail, it doesn't know what to do. It's probably going to have to front switch over to the left here to start denying something this income in this area, but we'll see how HS reacts to these plays. We see the infantry come up and start to capture this comm tower. The tank actually goes down to the right here to prevent an easy interrupt from the plane. And this artillery is not in range, but this infantry still is in range to attack from the road. It's not going to be a great engagement for Grit, but it is going to interrupt the comm tower, so we'll have to see what Grit decides to do there. This is the thing I was talking about earlier, where Max doesn't want to necessarily build an artillery, so he uses a Neo tank to attack the pipe seam, gets it down to 33. It's going to be able to break it open on the next turn. This infantry will probably then go and capture it. We do see Max player here, HS, already starting to get a good income and board state advantage on his opponent Grit. That's always going to happen generally anytime you're facing Grit, but especially when you have an aggressive CO like Max going up against Grit, you're going to be down at least 5 to 6 properties as the Grit player, and you kind of just have to make sure you have the unit count and board state advantage of your opponent so that it doesn't matter. But we can see already in the center here, I mean, HS has pressure on this city. These ones are still up for grabs, but Izanagi has really no units in the area to contest them, and then the ones over here on the left, maybe even the HQ potentially, is trying to be put under threat in a few turns here by HS, so we'll have to see how he wants to handle this. We do go now back to Izanagi. He actually uses the other infantry down here to go towards the airport. Probably going to capture the comm tower actually with this infantry. Let's see, the tank is in range, so we'll have to see how he wants to handle it. He does decide to go capture the comm tower. He's probably going to bring the tank and artillery down to help defend. We do see the interrupt here of the comm tower on this side, so it's very interesting that Izanagi wants to get aggressive. Generally, you want to pretty much avoid all types of aggression as Grit. You don't want to get in a lot of fights. It's kind of like playing Eagle. You just kind of want to sit back, develop a bunch of units, and wait for your superior stall tactics to outshine in terms of the game. For Eagle, that's the lightning strike, getting the double turn. For Grit, it's just your better artillery and developing a critical mass there. It's a bit interesting he's going for the interrupt of the comm tower, especially because, you know, you're definitely not denying Max at both of the comm towers in that. That's never going to happen, so just letting him have this one is probably not the worst thing in the world, especially when the red players are already going to be trying to put a bunch of pressure on this area of the map in the long term of the match anyway. So interesting to see there from Izanagi. We go here to HS turn. He does in fact blow up the pipe seam, brings that infantry in range of the airport on the next turn. We see some troops move out here, including the anti-air to apply some pressure. The tank goes in and actually attacks the artillery that was on the road that was left in range of this unit, which is a bit interesting. Obviously, Izanagi can get a good attack here on the force on the tank, but because of the lower power of grit on his direct units, this is probably going to be like, I don't know, like a 6 to 7 trade, something like this, so it's not going to be even that bad for HS, so I do like actually this attack here. Again, you want to be aggressive against grit, don't let him build a critical mass. We wipe out the infantry that interrupted the comm tower, and then again goes and pretty much sacrifices the tank to destroy another artillery. Again, I'm a fan of this. You really don't want to stall out against grit. We do see this tank get punished by this artillery in the tank. We have the infantry come down to now try to capture this airport down here in the bottom left. We do see the capture of the comm tower by Izanagi down in the bottom left. Some more artillery is being built. We see the 7.6 trade here that I was talking about on the tanks, and then the first battlecopter of the game built by Izanagi. And I want to do kind of a total count, just kind of on your own here, count how many battlecopters Izanagi actually builds in this game, and see the really strong use of them, right? Because instead of having to build a tank or a neo tank or anything to address some of the tanks that HS is going to build throughout this game, the battlecopters are going to provide great usage there and allow Izanagi to still get that same pressure while still building a bunch of indirects throughout the map as well. I will say just briefly, I do think HS is building too many small tanks. Like I said previously, High Funds is a map where tanks really just get outshined throughout the game as the game goes on, especially when you're facing Grit and his artilleries, which are cheaper than your tanks. You can pretty much one-shot your tanks on anywhere on the map. Normal tanks are just not going to be the units that you want to build. You want to build more of those high-value units, especially something like bombers, neo-tanks, the likes of this. It's kind of a push and pull, right? Because you do want some tanks to help wall break and get through and destroy as many artillery as possible, but I do think this is the wrong ratio, at least to start. I think there should probably be one more neo tank and maybe 2 to 3 less tanks here to compensate for that. Also, I think you need to really emphasize getting this airport as soon as possible and just pump out battlecopters. The number one thing against Grit is you need unit count. You need a bunch of units to flood in there and destroy as much of his walls as possible. If you're losing on unit count, you're definitely going to lose the game, no matter how much income you have. That's mostly true on most maps, but especially when you're facing Grit. But we'll keep on going here for Izanagi's turn. He builds a infantry from this base, 2 infantries on this base, and then the battlecopter and the artillery. So we go now to HS. Even though it was interrupted earlier, he still was able to get to the comm tower. So going back to that move by Izanagi, I really don't like it. It really didn't delay anything there. We see the tank come over here and actually finish off the artillery, kind of sacrificing in the process. I don't super get that. You're kind of just throwing away a tank for nothing there. Maybe it's to help build some of the power charge. That's definitely possible. Like I said, tanks in the long term of the game aren't super important anyway, so just knocking off some artillery ain't bad. We see the attack here, clearing off the infantry of the comm tower. I do like this. You're probably going to get at least a very strong pressure of a flip here, maybe getting both comm towers in the game. I think Izanagi maybe got too aggressive down here in the bottom left. Obviously, you want to have strong pressure and attack here, but because he split up his resources both on this left flank attack and also defending his own right flank, he went too aggressive on this comm tower, denied himself some of the own income in the area, and is probably going to have this end up being flipped to HS anyway. So maybe not the best move there by Izanagi. Shockingly, we actually see a missiles built by Max, which is absolutely insane. This range for the missiles is wrong. This should have one more range. Even for Max, it's not that bad, I believe. But if Max is able to get... There's a reason for this. I mean, you might be thinking, Max missiles, that's absolutely insane. But if Max is able to get his missiles either to this shoal tile here or this shoal tile here, he is going to be able to lock down the airport. So he's basically countering Izanagi's idea here of, hey, I want to rush this airport early, apply pressure this base. Well, I'm just going to put my missiles down here amongst my wall of infantry and other units. And it's going to take you forever to get those missiles out of place here. So even if you do get the airport early, it's just going to be like another city. You're not going to build any units from it. So while it might seem crazy, you might think, you know, what is HS smoking here? There is actually a purpose here for these Max missiles. Well, we keep on going. He sends the Neo tank on the right flank up to the north. We do see more good center pressure, like I was talking about even earlier. This whole area is definitely in the favor of HS now. He didn't go for as much of the kind of HQ pressure as I think he may have had a window to do, maybe force some of these units on the left here more towards the center and then get some of this income in the area. But he is still getting great pressure here, getting kind of all 4 of these center cities under at least his pressure control here. Hopefully, as the max player may maybe want to try to deny this city, even though it's very far on Grit's side. You may think that's, you know, uncontestable, but in a max versus Grit matchup, you can definitely at least delay the city for a while if you have more pressure in the area. We do see an anti-air and tank build on the right side here, so HS is also already recognizing that Izanagi is wanting to focus on these airports, probably build up battlecopters and bombers as this game goes on, so he's putting in his own air defense investments on this path as well. We do see some more captures here by Izanagi on the airport down in the south and in some of these central cities, and we actually see a battleship build, and the battleship is actually a super strong play by Izanagi here. Obviously, I mean, just to look at that range grid is absolutely ridiculous, man. It has entire pressure of this entire area of control, including the comm tower, some of these cities, and it actually has a great pathing here where it can go out and go all the way down to this tile here. And you might think it can lock down the base. It can't lock down the base. It can go, I believe, right to this tile here, but obviously on a power, it then can lock down the base. So a very strong play here by Izanagi, and it has the additional benefit that it's going to be able to shut down this whole missile idea, right? The whole idea of the missile was to go to this tile here to shut down the airport, but the battleship is going to absolutely outrange a max missile, no doubt about it. That would happen even in a normal matchup like Andy v. Andy. And just kind of destroy that whole plan by HS. So this missile is going to end up being a really bad buy, unfortunately, and not going to have the use case that it wanted, just essentially invalidated by this battleship build by Izanagi. We do see the tank come in and get a good attack here on the tank on the shoal. Some more artillery streaming in, and the first of the battlecopters. The rocket gets an interrupt here on the city. We see the tanks and other artillery area kind of retreat, getting away from this medium tank and normal tank. Again, this is standard great gameplay. You want to delay as much as possible. Just build, 1-2 extra artillery. It may not seem like much, but it applies so much pressure on that wall, and really makes any wall breaking attempt by your opponent especially hard. Even if you get something like a max blast power here. If there's 2 artillery in the area, you can kind of shut down this whole thing, but if there's more artillery and rockets kind of in the area, it becomes a really pain to try to slog through all of that. Even with the power, you're probably going to end up losing a bunch of your army in general. So you do kind of want to delay as grit. We do see the flip of the comm tower here by HS. Izanagi was not able to interrupt that, so HS now has both comm towers getting very close to his power, so a potential power spike coming for him. The infantry retreats away from this city here, not that the rocket was covering it. We see all of these units kind of just exactly out of rocket range, which is good, but Izanagi is close to his power. He could potentially pop that, and he's not going to be in range of this Neo tank, but he could get some picks off here on the infantry. Probably not going to be worth it, but still a concern. We do unfortunately see HS have to kind of retreat in this area because of the pressure of the 2 artillery, the battlecopter, and the battleship. It's just too much to go in for, and that is not what you want to see as max. You never want to be treating against really any opponent. You want to kind of just be the aggressor as much as possible. Obviously, you're going to retreat in some instances. You don't want to overextend, but this is not that. This is the central property. This is what you want to be aggressing for in a normal game, but especially against Grit, you don't want these artillery coming in the match and then conceding the entire area. So that's kind of actually what HS is essentially doing here by not going into attack here in the long term, 3 or 4 days down the line. He's probably giving up this entire area of control with these indirects that are going to be coming in for Izanagi. We do see another Neo tank build to try to bolster this defense, and we pass it back to Izanagi here on day 10. Izanagi gets some caps going through. We do a quick income check. He's just 2k behind, so not that bad as the Grit player. We see another battlecopter built up north. We clear the infantry off the comm tower. We're not going to be able to start recapturing that anytime soon, but he is positioning his infantry to come back in this area. We do see the battleship come down to this tile that I was talking about earlier. Again, it's not going to be able to base lock this base yet, but on power it will be, so he wants to put it in that area to start with. We do see some more artillery come out here, another artillery build. This is kind of the critical mass problems I was talking about. And we see the classic Grit 3 artillery and battlecopter build. That's super, super strong, super annoying to go against. And HS really just doesn't have the pressure yet to counter this at this point in the match. He's either going to need a very powerful power turn to kind of get back into this, or maybe apply some pressure to the HQ if Izanagi is going to be threatening this entire left flank over here. See the other units withdraw, and we go to day 10 here for HS. Rolling into day 10 here for HS. We get some center captures on this part of the map. We get some more infantry in the area to again apply some more pressure here. We have the Neo tank going up to the north. It's going to be out of range of the rockets, not even really in any threats there. I think he's probably trying to position slightly towards the city. It's going to be pretty hard to do that with the rocket in the area, but just trying to build a force to potentially line up in max blast. I do think HS really has to commit on one side here. I don't think it's the best idea going up against Grit to generally kind of split your forces, having one army over on this side and one army on that side. You're not going to be strong enough unless you have like a super powerful turn with, you know, a CO power, super CO power to really break through everything. So no matter what you do, you're always going to be counterattacked pretty hard and not gain really any ground. If you're going to be splitting up your army like this, I think it's better to kind of just, you know, essentially give up a portion in the map and try to hold on for as long as you can, be sneaky where you can, pick off infantry to prevent some of these flips of the cities or anything like this. And then on the other side, invest everything, push him as hard as you can, and beat him early. Because when you do this kind of even split across the board idea, you're just always going to have situations that you don't want to address. And no matter how much you front shift, if he's being smart as a grid player and he's putting troops everywhere, he's not going to give you any lanes to have easy attacks. And it's just going to be really a painful slog and something you're going to lose in the long term. So I think you do need to be more aggressive towards one side. That's why I do like this bomber build over here by HS. We're going to have to see whether he wants to send it to his left or right here, but I do think he kind of has to commit on one side if he wants to have some pressure in the long part of this game. We see the Neo Tank and Tank come in and actually get a nice pick off of the Blackbolt here on the shoal. That isolates the infantry from ever coming kind of off this area, but he's going to be able to move it off to the shoal tile here to build troops from the airport. We do see the airport lock that I was talking about earlier with this missile, so that's nice for Max. We'll see. It's going to last probably like one turn before this battleship comes in range, but at least he was able to pull off the idea. These other troops are going to have to back off from this pressure here, though, which is a bit unfortunate. We see the battleship get in range here of both the Neo Tank and the missiles. The artillery are getting easy pickoffs of this infantry in the area, and now this infantry is actually in range to flip the comm tower back, so Izanagi is going to go for it and defend with all of his other artillery, and it's really hard. You don't want to go in here and sacrifice units just to interrupt this comm tower cap. We do see some more good pressure elsewhere on the map by Izanagi. We see another rocket build. I actually do like this rocket build now. There's enough of a wall of artillery that he can have good pressure, especially with powers coming up. If he can get down even towards the central area, he can apply huge pressure on any of the cities in this area, as well as eventually threatening a base lock. T-Copter is a good idea as well. You have a bunch of infantry here that are needed on the front line in order to get some of these captures that you want to get, but they're kind of going to take multiple days to get there, so getting a T-Copter in space that can ferry these infantry much faster than they can walk will be a good idea as well. We see some more artillery built by Grit here, and we roll into day 11 for HS. Going into day 11 here for HS, he decides to move his bomber actually down to the left here. I think he wants to probably apply pressure here, maybe on the battleship to clear that out of the way and then re-get this base lock on the airport. We do see a mid-turn max force pop here. I say a mid-turn, but only a few units have moved here, so this is going to have to be a very powerful power for HS to kind of get some more pressure on this map, so let's see what he can do. With the extra range, actually, let's see if that was extra range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, it was with the extra range of the power. He is able to get the kill on the battlecopter with his anti-air. Able to get a nice attack here, fully killing off an artillery on the road there, and interrupt the comm tower cap as well. So overall, pretty nice power on this side. Obviously, these units are all dead. I think, let's see, yeah, all these units are going to be within artillery range, except for maybe this anti-air here on the city, so all 4 of these units are probably going to die, which is a bit unfortunate. It's just kind of the world that you accept when you're facing Grit. The missiles have to back up out of the range of the battleship, as well as the Neo Tank. We do see some pressure over here on the center as well. Get some more good pickoffs for HS here, and we see the sitting of the Neo Tank on this city as well. That's going to be actually in range of a few artillery, so I don't entirely get the purpose of that, especially on power. I mean, if Izanagi pops power here, this rocket he can even come in and essentially fully wipe out that Neo Tank, so I don't necessarily get the positioning of that there. He does decide to build a fighter as well to maybe address some of the battlecopter and other threats that are going to be coming in. Eventually, Izanagi does want to build a bomber from this area to threaten the space, so I do like the preemptive fighter. And we pass it back to day 12 for Izanagi. Going into day 12 here for Izanagi, let's quickly do a board state check. It's my favorite thing to do in these replay analysis. Obviously, the commentary can get pretty fast at times, a lot of different things going on at once, so it's good to just take a break here and figure out exactly what's happening on the board state perspective. So HS does have an 8k lead over Izanagi. That's about 4 properties. It's about where you want to be in a max versus Grit matchup. Maybe 5 or 6 would be even better, ideally. He does have a 5 unit count advantage, which is, this is a 3 base 2 airport map, so that's pretty good. at the start of Izanagi's turn, being up 5 units over him is generally kind of a good step there. And then from a unit value perspective, Izanagi is, what is that, 40k, no, 60k behind his opponent, HS. So overall, all of this board state and statistical units show that HS is winning at this point. If this was a normal matchup, like not a grit max matchup, HS would definitely be up. But there is some things obviously going for Izanagi here that he is not even close to being out of this game. Number one, HS just popped his power, and Izanagi both has his normal power and super power available to him. Generally, as Grit, you only want to be popping your normal power. It's, your super power doesn't give you any more attack power, it just gives you more range. So if you don't need that extra range, you just pop your normal power. So we'll probably see Izanagi do that. And then obviously there's a lot of attacks that are going to happen on this turn. Obviously these 4 artilleries are going to wipe out every unit kind of in this area. This battleship has the ability to knock out the missile if it wants as well. And then these 4, maybe 5 units are going to get good attacks here on the Neo tank and all the tanks in this area. So this is going to be a pretty devastating counterattack here by Izanagi, especially if he pops his power that's available to him. The main thing that's going for HS kind of in the long term of this game is the income pressure. Obviously he's going to get this city here, this city here. Probably not this city here unless things go very poorly for Izanagi with some of these engagements, which I don't think they will. But HS is probably going to have close to a 10k income lead coming up in this game within just a few turns. So it's going to be up to Izanagi to make sure that he can combat this. Being up 5-6 properties of your opponent is pretty strong, but if you don't have the unit count to match it, it's not going to be good enough against Grit. So it's going to be up to Izanagi to prove that and not let the income of this game determine more than it should. But like I said, we roll into this turn for Izanagi. He does indeed pop his snipe attack. That's just his normal power, giving 1+ range to all of his indirect units. And let's see the destruction that occurs. So this artillery gets a nice shot here on the tank on the plane. I do believe that was a roll, whether that was a full kill or left on 1 HP. It is in fact left on 1 HP. The artillery in the city gets a nice 3 damage hit here on the Neo tank. The rocket then finishes it off, or basically finishes it off. We see another hit there, leaving it on 1 HP on the road, and another one there. So very kind of unfortunate for Izanagi. He didn't get any of these rolls. I think definitely the ones on the road at least were a roll. Maybe this plane one was not a roll. But these ones definitely should have been a roll, whether he got it or not. He does also, by the way, base lock himself here, but he's not super worried about that. He has enough units in this area that he's not getting pressured by anything. So although he hasn't killed a bunch of units on this turn, he basically has, right? Let's do a count of how many units are on 2 HP or below here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't believe I counted that one. Yeah, so 6. So that's 6 of HS 28 units are on 2 HP or below. So, the unit count is a bit of a lie there in some stances. 7, maybe I should have kept on going, so 7 units there. 8, wow, he's really not getting any of these rolls. And then finishes off some of these more units. Okay, so he does finish off some of these, so the unit count is going to reflect things a bit more there. But yeah, it was a bit funny how Izanagi didn't really get any of his rolls there. Also, a bit unfortunate here, not knocking off, killing this tank on the plane either. That's just kind of Grit things for you. Did he really not get that? So, full HP infantry can't get the kill, and then the tank following it up also can't get the kill. That is just kind of hilariously bad power from Grit there. Kind of funny. We do see the fighter built down here in the bottom left by Grit. That's going to be to counter this bomber. Good play by HS by building his own fighter in the area to attack this one as well. He did a good job of preemptively anticipating this own fighter built by Izanagi on his previous turn. So HS does get some of these cities that were in the area. He is able to knock off a few more units, and he does decide that now is the time to go in. So he goes in, gets 1 attack on the artillery, gets another attack on this artillery. That is basically the only healthy tanks he had in this area. The other ones are all damaged. He brings in his bomber to apply more pressure to this area. And now we're seeing kind of one of the problems that Izanagi has here, which he doesn't have any anti-air to address this bomber. So he's going to have to build, he's going to be in a kind of pickle here. He needs the artillery and other indirect units to wipe off some of these tanks in the area, but also an anti-air to help deal with the bomber. So this is the power of having, really high unit count in an area on the map going up against Grit. This is why you don't want to spread your units on both sides of the map. You want to just overwhelm one area, because Grit can do a really good job defending overall, but if you pressure him with everything you have, he can't defend it no matter how many bases he has in an area. So I do like this by HS. He is getting good properties. He's potentially forcing this flip here as well as getting this city here, and he's just kind of conceding the left flank and going more forward this base trade idea that we talked about at the beginning of the map. We do see even this infantry in range of the HQ now. Obviously, there's a bunch of units that can defend it, but still putting more pressure on. And just a quick look here on HS, there's not a single unit for HS that is beyond this base towards the left. So he's just conceding this entire portion of the map to threaten Izanagi's base. So how should Izanagi respond to this? Obviously to go for the base trade, right? So he puts his own infantry in the area. That's the great use of the transport copter that he built earlier. Gets his battleship in range. You do see now it's one range outside of the base, but he is going to be able to get there with any of his powers. We do see some of the indirects get some good hits off. The Neo tank comes in, gets a good attack there. Izanagi is, Grid is also a person that wants to tech up in general because his own tanks are so weak. Getting out medium tanks, Neo tanks, the likes of this can give him the necessary firepower he needs to get some good engagements with direct units. We do see the anti-air built here to address the bomber. I don't believe there's a single unit that's going to be in range to attack it, so this is going to be able to build kind of for free. We see another anti-air built, just kind of being even more defensive because a second bomber was built. I kind of forgot to mention that in the previous turn, but HS did build a second bomber, so a second anti-air definitely is needed. You probably need, maybe even 3 anti-air to deal with 2 bombers because the bomber can obviously attack the anti-air and wipe it out. You do need more anti-air than you think when you're going up against specifically bombers as opposed to something like battlecopters. We see a battlecopter built down here in the bottom left and another built up in the north. For Izanagi, so obviously he is trying to kind of go back to this idea of utilizing battlecopters as grit, which is kind of the central idea that we wanted to talk about at the beginning of this match as well. Going into day 13 here for HS. We do see those city flips there. Izanagi was not able to interrupt, so now we have a 16k, is that right? Yeah, 16k income advantage for HS. Obviously that's only 8 properties and high funds, but that's still a lot. Especially with unit count being somewhat, not being in favor of grid is bad for Max, but 16k income advantage, that's really hard to argue with. He's definitely not out of it by any stretch with that type of lead. We do see even more units going over here to the right. The fighter comes over here to the left to address Izanagi's own fire in the area. It's also going to be a very strong unit to actually block stuff off, right? So if Izanagi is able to wipe off, if HS is able to wipe off Izanagi's fighter over here on the road, his own fighter can sit on his base and essentially, base lock himself, but deny Izanagi from ever flipping it. So it can be a really good strategy if there's any, very vital pieces of map control that you need. If your opponent doesn't have anything to address it in terms of anti-air or fighters or anything else in the area, or you can easily get rid of them, then having your own fighter in this space can be a very good blocking tool. So that may be what HS is going for. We do see the bomber come here and actually destroy this pipe seam. This pipe seam is not normally ever destroyed, but I think this is a strategy by HS to get out more towards the center here. I think he's trying to get more pressure on some of these cities in this area and potentially front shift some of these units over and apply pressure on the HQ if Izanagi goes too deep over here into the left flank, so we'll have to see how HS develops this attack. We pass it over here for day 14 for Izanagi. He does start getting some of these city flips, so he's going for this city flip here, this city flip here, and the flip of the comm tower back in his control. Max has had 2 comm towers for the majority of this map, actually. It's going to be very interesting to see the dynamics once the comm tower is flipped back to a one-on-one scenario. We see some more defensive actions here by Izanagi. He is centralizing all of his units in this area. Conceding these 2 properties, he's letting those go as well. We see actually now, finally, HS has built a black boat here to get to this corner airport. I do think he should have done this a while ago. Having battlecopters coming in, flooding in early into applying pressure on the space would have been very strong for HS, for Max in this game, especially because battlecopters as Max are just way stronger than not even stronger than Grid's battlecopters. They're way stronger than Grid's battlecopters, but stronger than anybody's battlecopters. He's one of the best battlecopter commanders in the game, so I do think you should have gotten this earlier, but better late than never. We do also see a missile build here by Izanagi, and obviously Grid missiles are way better than those, very depressing Max missiles that we saw earlier in this game, and that's going to be to help defend against these bombers as well. We see a 3rd bomber built by HS, by the way, on that last turn, so he's really emphasizing the air pressure, and obviously then Izanagi has to go back and do some air defense. We do see a T-copter built here over on the bottom left as well. It's going to be to ferry this infantry off the island finally, and again apply some more infantry in the area to confirm some of these flips. We roll into day 14 here for a chest, and this game is on its boiling point. A lot of pressure is about to happen in this game. We see this huge army here that HS is building, 3 bombers coming in to all attack this area. Izanagi has a bunch of defenses in the area to potentially defend against it, but he is going to have to go all in this area because his own left flank here is being pressured. So if he is going to want to have any chance in this game, he is going to have a very successful attack here in the next few turns. So let's see how HS helps to develop it. Because Izanagi has given up these properties, HS goes ahead and pounces, starts capturing them on his own, brings his bombers into the area. Again, setting up these attacks for maybe this next day or maybe the day after that as well, trying to pressure the space. We see the fighter come out to this city here. It's in a decent position to lock down this airport as well, although I do think it can be kind of trapped in, especially if you kill off this anti-air. It can be walled off, and then potentially Izanagi can bring his own fighter back very quickly and maybe wipe off his own fighter. So this may be actually a bit reckless by HS with no other units that can really come in and break that surround potential. But we do see the rest of his army going out to the right here to again threaten this base rush. We do finally see, rolling into day 15 here for Izanagi, we do finally see the comm tower flip that we talked about earlier, and the capture of this city down here. So going back to this, I forgot why the anti-air fighter even went here in the first place. It was to knock off the flip that was happening over here as well. So the battleship goes in and attacks the anti-air, knocking it down to 3 HP. Izanagi does in fact bring his own fighter here, so he's definitely going to be going for this surround play, I think, and then punishing the fighter by killing it on its next turn. So we do in fact see that the fighter is now being locked in by these artillery here and the T-copter. The T-copter was kind of an interesting play. Definitely would have loaded the infantry in and then dropped it off. Obviously, the infantry and the T-copter may have died at that point, but it's going to be a tank and a fighter that's going to be dying for HS in return, so it's going to be good value. Instead, the fighter is just going to get essentially a free kill here of the T-copter. These tanks don't necessarily have to go in there any further at that point because this fighter is dead either way. But this infantry doesn't get off the city, which is something it may have wanted to do. And even if you're getting it off the city, off this island here to put it on here to just die to these tanks, well then these tanks are going to die in return by all the interest they have in the area. So I definitely would have ferried this over. I don't necessarily know why he didn't do that. He builds another fighter in this area as well. I think this fighter... Actually, maybe this fighter didn't even need to come over here at all. I think this fighter would have had better purposes over here to address some of these bombers. Yes, you do have a lot of air defenses in this way with the anti-air and the missiles, but I do think this fighter could have gone over here if you were going to build your own fighter down here in the bottom left anyway. So kind of an interesting decision there by Izanagi. We do see some more defensive wall formations. Again, he's just conceding this entire area, which I do think is smart. It's increasingly seeming like this space is going to be pressure under to fall, but if you have enough indirects in this area, you know, 1, 2, not really, so 1, 2, 3-ish artillery in the area, the rockets in the area, the missiles to help defend against the air units, you're slowly going to be building up enough of a foundation to provide good defense towards this base over here. Even if all of your cities flip in this area, you really don't care. You can be down 20k, but as long as you have potentially 5 bases to your opponents, not 5 bases, if you have 4 bases to your opponents, 1, 2, 3, 4 bases to your opponent's 2, you're going to win the game in the long run anyway, no matter what the income situation is, because you're going to win on unit count. So that does seem to be Izanagi's idea. So we roll into day 15 here for a chest. We roll into day 15 here for a chest, and this is going to be the turn. Max Blast is ready to pop. He has plenty of units in the area to sit on this base, and he's bringing in more bombers every single turn to help with this attack. So I believe this is going to be the turn that we see this. We see the bomber come in and knock off the infantry on the base. We see the own infantry go into the black boat. That's going to be to capture the airport up here in the top right and some more city flips going. We do see the knockoff of the infantry here with the anti-air, and then finally a mid-turn max blast is popped. We saw the kind of the delay of that pop initially just to build some more power for the next potential max blast. That's a common thing that you will see in high-level play. You don't always pop your power immediately once you have it ready because you want to build up more charge that you'll have once that power finishes off for engagements like the bomber on the infantry and like the anti-air on the infantry that wouldn't have been benefited from the power in the first place. But we do see HS pop his power, so we go into this turn here. The Neo tank comes in and wipes off the rockets on the city. The tank comes in and sits on the base here, so this base is now base locked. Tank comes in and fully wipes off the mech. Another tank comes in and finishes off the artillery. So all these units are going to be in range of 1, 2, not really, so 1, 2, 3 artillery here, and then these battlecopters. So Izanagi is going to put some pressure back here, but he's definitely not going to be able to clear the space, I don't think. So now HS has to try to defend this attack here now that he's successfully denied his opponent his space. We do see a few more engagements here on the left side, but all these units are going to die. It's going to be very interesting to see what HS does with the rest of the units. He's trying to front shift some of these bombers over here now to apply pressure in this area, but I think it's a little too late to really have any influence here. I don't think you're going to be able to block your own opponent from blocking your base as well. So you see a fighter built over here now to address some of the air units that Izanagi has in the area, and then an anti-air and infantry as well. Going into day 16 here for Izanagi, he has his power and superpower ready at this point, and he needs to have a very strong turn here. He's lost his own base, he's losing a bunch of properties, the income disparity is about to be 20k or even worse for him, and this attack, while looking very promising, needs to get moving immediately if he's going to have really any shot in this game. So we'll see how he handles it here on day 16. He goes in, gets a couple properties started on his side, and then he does pop Snipe Attack, his normal power, saving up his own power for the next turn, to potentially pop it 2 turns in a row. The artillery start attacking, wipe off an anti-air knockdown. This Neo Tank down to 5 HP, 3 HP attacks as well, knocking off another piece of HP. The medium tank comes in and finishes off the Neo Tank. Artillery down here in the bottom right wipes off, looks at a tank on the shoals. And then we have the battleship, God, I'm going to keep on saying battleship. The battleship on this tile, because of the power, does in fact cover this base now, so he is able to knock it down to 2 HP. Battlecopter comes in and finishes it off, and like I was talking about earlier, a great play is to put the fighter on the base. Nothing can knock it off here. This anti-air is not going to be in reach, not going to have reach to knock it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it would need a power by HS to get it, and while he did have some charge built up, I don't think he's going to have enough to ultimately knock it off with this anti-air. We do see the T-Copter get some more good boosts here to put some infantry in range to not only block this base, but potentially flip it on the next few turns coming up. This fighter actually decides to completely ignore this fighter over here over the water. Izanagi is essentially saying, I don't care about that fighter at all, there's nothing really in the range to really scare me. I need to bring my own fighters in to both block this base and start to threaten to come with some of the bombers in this area. So very interesting play here by Izanagi. He floods in more of his units as well, more of his artillery to continue this pressure on the base over here. We see his other units start to back off and again just kind of sit here. I think again he is not necessarily trying to get this base back, but delay the capturing of this base at all costs. So it will be in a scenario where even if the space is blocked, it'll be a 3-2 base scenario where he has this one, and this unit, this infantry unit coming in to capture this one, while permanently denying any infantry from capturing this base here because of all of his indirects in the area. So even if he can't build anything, he's fine with that as long as HS is not able to flip it. We see another missiles built over here on the left, which is a bit interesting. I wonder if he's going to front shift it over here to the right to get more defense, or whether he's trying to send that down to the left to maybe address some of the fighters and bombers coming into this area. We'll have to see what he wants to do. And we pass it back to HS here on day 16. So rolling into day 16 here for HS, he is able to get some of these property flips. We see a full 20k income advantage. Obviously, Izanagi is going to flip some of that back here on the next turn, but for one turn, that's pretty crazy. We do see a capture of this city up here in the north as well. Bomber comes in and kills off the artillery on this tile here, and finishes off the medium tank as well. We do see kind of some sacking of the tanks into the battlecopter. I wonder if he's trying to build enough charge to get actually this anti-air, to get the power to get this anti-air to clear off this fighter on the base. Is going to be very interesting to play to see if he tries to go for that. He is sacrificing his tanks in this battlecopter, so I imagine that is what he's going for. He starts capturing this space. You kind of do have to go for this no matter how many artillery in the area. You just have to constantly pressure that, so Izanagi, the great player, can't move his units away. We do see the fighter come in as well. It's very interesting how this fighter is put in jail too, because this is such a powerful unit that you may be trying to get something like the Max Blast with this fighter, but because he's put it in this jail cell here and not allowing it to attack anything, not allowing it to sacrifice itself into anti-air, really, well, it can't even do that. Fighter can't attack anti-air, but not allowing it to sacrifice itself into any bombers or fighters in the area, it really can't get any value to get some of this power charge. So we do see some of these other units come into the area as well. Another fighter built down here in the bottom right for A-Chest. Brings in his bombers, and he passes to day 17 for Izanagi, and unfortunately A-Chest was still pretty much a full bar away from getting this anti-air having enough range to interrupt the fighter on the base, which I think was his main idea in general at the start of this turn. So we do see some income flipping back here for Izanagi, neutralizing it back to about a 10k advantage, so that's a good play by him. Even if he does lose this city here, it's still in reasonable range for him there. We do see these indirects coming in and just getting tons of value, right? So the artillery gets a full 9 HP off this tank on the road. The missiles comes in and it wipes off the bomber on the mountain. This anti-air comes in and gets a nice 6 HP off the bomber over here on the plains. And then this anti-air comes in and attacks this bomber as well. So this is really, really devastating for A-Chest. I mean, he had at one point 4 or 5 healthy bombers coming in to threaten this base over here, and he's lost pretty much every single one of them. I mean, he has 7 total HP worth of bombers left for this attack, and Grid Izanagi in this game really is still doing very well. He has 1, 2, 3 healthy artillery in the area. He has 2 battlecopters and 2 healthy anti-air as well. He has a ton of units in this space that can pretty much indefinitely put enough pressure on this base that it's not going to flip anytime soon, and HS doesn't have any units in this area really to finish off his attack and make sure he gets this base flip and eventually pressure this base as well. So I do like the positioning here by Izanagi. This anti-air does finally come in and attack the fighter on the ocean tile because both players are already essentially fully charged on power. This is a good move, good time to get that attack in. We see the battlecopter go in and attack this tank on the city, and we finally see power, midterm power here. It's actually a super snipe, not a snooper snipe. A super snipe, which is the superpower for Grit. This gives him 2+ range on all of his units. I'm very curious what he wants to do with this. If we look at this battleship, that is not the reason for it. It doesn't have enough range there. I think it might be with these tanks. I'm curious. So this artillery is obviously the main culprit to knock off the infantry on this base, but I believe he could have gotten away with that with just a power, not necessarily a superpower. So it's gonna be. I'm curious to see why he did this. Maybe it's with this. Oh, okay, this is definitely why. It's with this rocket down here. This rocket, because the Super Snipe now has enough range to attack either this tank or, more importantly, this anti-air down here in the forest. With this power of the rockets and battlecopter coming in, he's going to be able to knock off this anti-air, which is kind of forming a wall, and destroy all the units in this area as well, which is pretty devastating at this point. So we go back to the north here for a second. I'll go back because that was kind of hard to see. But we do see this artillery knock off the tank on the city, and then this artillery on the shoal knock off the infantry on that base. And then immediately see a mega tank build by Izanagi on the base. Super smart. HS at this point, because all of his bombers are super destroyed, he doesn't have any powerful units in this area. Nothing can knock this mega tank off this base. I don't care if this mega tank doesn't attack a single thing in its life. It is interrupting that base from ever being captured, so it's going to be very, very strong. HS is doing a good job by capturing this airport to have streamed some bombers in that are going to be faster towards this area, but it's still going to take multiple turns to ever knock off this mega tank from the base. So I really do like that play by Izanagi. His other units come in, the anti-air comes off and finishes off that bomber, and then finally we see this attack here. So actually, not only did this rocket get in range, but this artillery also got in range to attack the anti-air as well. So we do see those plays, the rocket coming off, killing off the tank, the artillery coming off and killing the anti-air. The battlecopter comes in, finishes off this tank, and now these fighters are in range to attack both this bomber and the own fight and HS own fighter in the area, and that's going to be a pretty devastating attack. Very interesting here that he does not actually go for this, I guess because, yeah, HS is cycling his fighters in, so this is actually a good no call here to not attack this fighter, both because it's a direct combat engagement, it's not going to work out for you in the long run, and also because there's anti-air and his own fighters in the area. So I do kind of like these fighters this fighter at least acting more as a wall. Now looking at that is the better play. We do see the capture of this base here now with this infantry that was in the area. And overall, it's just looking very, very bad for Izanagi. He was able to clear off this base, build the mega tank, so HS is not going to get this base anytime, and this base does look like it's going to fall for Izanagi. We see some more attacks here. The battlecopter comes in and finishes off a tank, and we pass it to HS here on day 17. I'm doing another board state checkup here for HS at this point in the game as we roll into day 17, and it is looking very bad. He does have a 10k income lead, which is great, but pretty much every other indicator is very, very bad for HS. He's down essentially a 2-to-1 scale on unit value, 135,000 to 269. That is very, very bad. He's down, what is that, 11 unit count. You cannot have that against Grit. And his own base looks like it is falling, while his base, the attack he was trying to put on Isanagi's base, does not look like it's going to happen. You're going to have the best max blast of all time to really come back from it at this point, so we'll have to see how he gets on here. So we do see the capture some of these properties, the capture the airport, and then we see the max blast popped. The fighter comes in with this extra range of the max blast and is able to get a nice attack here on this fighter here. Tank comes in and clears the way to attack some of these artillery. The artillery is going to fall on the shoals. Anti-air comes in and knocks off another battlecopter. Tank comes in and knocks off another artillery. So this is good pressure. He's killing off a lot of the units in the area, but again, he really has no answer for this Mega Tank. We do see the capture of this property here. That's going to be pretty hard to interrupt by Isanagi. Other fighter comes in and clears off the battlecopter from this space here. With this extra range by the max blast, the anti-air is able to come in and wipe off the T-copter that was in this way. And unfortunately, I think HS is just going to be 1 unit too short, because this tank can come in and attack the artillery, but this infantry is just not in range to interrupt this cap. If it was, let's say, over here on this tile here, well, actually that wouldn't be a good example. If it was on this mountain tile here, just one or two more turns forward, it could come in and actually pose some danger here and interrupt this cap, but it's just not going to be close enough to really have any pressure. And I do think actually HS loses out on luck roll here too, maybe because Isanagi has the superpower. This wasn't a fully guaranteed kill, but the artillery is left on 1 HP. Neotank comes in and kills off the missiles on the shoals as well, now putting some pressure on this base as well. We flood in some more infantry into this area. The bomber is able to finish off the anti-air, but this is just unfortunately not powerful enough of a turn. We do see the income coming in with a bomber and Neotank being built here by HS, as well as another anti-air, and we pass it back to Isanagi here on day 18. But again, I just don't think this is enough. We do finally see the flip of the base over here on the left for Isanagi. He attacks the Neotank with his own artillery in the area and is able to finish it off. He now starts target firing the infantry, which is a very, very strong play. That's really the only threat that HS has in this game is all of the income. I wasn't sure. There probably is a unit or a city capture limit on this map, but it's going to be very, very high. Something like a 26, 28k income advantage that you would require for that. So by targeting these infantry down, he is making sure he doesn't lose by that win condition either. The battlecopter comes in and wipes off more of these infantry. The Mega Tank actually steps off the base to kill the artillery. Sorry, to kill the anti-air. That's a bit interesting to me, but maybe he's going to build another Mega Tank here just for that purpose as well. We see the artillery here on the left side just go back into a more defense position now that the base is captured. We usually just see anti-air belt here. I guess there is really nothing left in this area to have any pressure on. Even this bomber coming in is not going to do enough damage to fully finish off this anti-air on the base, so he is able to get away with that. And we pass it back to HS here on day 18, and there is really nothing left for HS here, so he moves around a few more units on the map, gets a few more pity attacks, but I do believe... Oh no, it goes to day 19, so we get one more turn here, a few more caps, a few more attacks here by Isanagi, but again, I do believe that this game is over. So he floods in. Go to HS turn here on day 19. Gets a few more attacks here. Fighter comes in, knocks off a few more battlecopters in the area. Neotank comes in and gets this last little attack. And HS goes ahead and resigns the game. So really fun matchup here between Isanagi 007 and HS. Obviously, really great to see high level play, especially in a Grit versus Match Max up. It was super fun to see kind of how this stylistic differences get on between one of the most hyper aggressive COs you have in the game in Max, and then one of the stall-based games that COs you have in the game in Grit. I do think Isanagi really just showed his class here with Grit, showing the power of critical mass of the artilleries, but also the prevalence of how battlecopters can have a huge effect on the game. We saw throughout the entire game that HS had to have constant air defenses. He built missiles, he built multiple anti-air in this game to really address all the air threats that Izanagi was putting out, which is very interesting because you normally see great players really just don't build a lot of air units in general if they can get away with it. They just tend to build a lot of indirect units and try to win that way. But I think Izanagi did a great job of his air units and allowed him to get a lot of pressure in this game, even being down a ton of income throughout this entire match as well. I also think this battleship buy early on in this game proved to be incredibly powerful. It allowed the initial attack here of all the space in this area, and then was critical in getting I believe it was a tank off this base, which allowed for the full first blocking of that base to start with, and then the flip later on as well. I think Izanagi was super crafty as well with his super snipe. That superpower, which is normally never pops again because it doesn't give any more firepower, it just gives more range, allowed the full breakthrough of the wall that was in this area, which knocked off a bomber as well as other units that could have potentially interrupted the full base capture by Izanagi as well. Overall, though, I do think it was a great game. I think HS did honestly play a pretty valiant match. I think his biggest mistake was, one, maybe potentially investing into too much of the left side here without going for a crucial attack early on in the game, and then potentially not getting this airport sooner as well to put more pressure on the space as well. But overall, a really, really fun match. I had a great time casting it. I hope you guys had a great time watching it. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is MansaMusa, and remember, max missiles have less range than a grit battleship. Bye, guys.